G'day, listeners. This episode is proudly brought to you by our sponsors, supshq.com.au. Use BWB15 at checkout to receive 15% off and direct shipping.
Howdy, guys and girls. Welcome back to another episode of Bros with Brains, here with Mr. Benjamin Button, Mayfield, Smith, Jones, Greg. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like you got a lot of names, so we're just going to roll with it.
That's what I'm talking about. Three.
Yeah, three is three too many. We're just going to, we're not even going to call you anything. We're just going to say, what's up?
Like Zendaya, I should just have one name.
Zendaya, sure.
just have, yeah, sure. Just be Ben. That's it. You don't get the rest of them.
Bono.
Imagine trying to fucking register just Ben as like your name to anything. No, which one? Just Ben. I'm just Ben. I'm the Ben.
No, your name is just Ben.
Yeah. It's just Ben.
Just Ben.
It's like, why is it called Puzzles? That's the puzzle.
Yeah.
Why is it just Ben? Because it's just Ben.
Yeah,
just
Ben.
call me Ben.
Yeah, Ben. Like, what's your name? Just Ben. Really?
Just Ben.
Just we'll call you Just. JB. I mean, that works. JB. It's a good nickname.
I'll take it.
Anyway,
what's going on?
Same shit. You?
Mate, don't say same shit. You don't get to say same shit. I know it's not the same shit. Tell everyone what's the same shit.
Well, it's 9 a.m. here. I'm actually in Dubai.
I told like 3 people this. They're like, what are you fucking talking about? I'm
so many people message me. They're like, what the fuck are you doing in Dubai? I'm like, bro, like, I don't promote that I'm an influencer and that I've made it. You know, like I don't have to hashtag mama we made it.
Yeah. I don't do these fucking cappuccino fucking rockaberry protein drink shots by the fucking beach. I just do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't need to promote it. So I'm just like, I'm in Dubai. Got to play one of the PGA courses out here, which is absolutely phenomenal. Thought I was going to die, but we won't talk about it.
Like genuinely plan ahead for heat.
Oh, man, I planned for the heat. I think I completely underestimated how hot it got. I was cooked. And this was at like 6 a.m. Like 6 a.m. was friggin' 34 degrees. So I'm going to do it all again tomorrow morning because, you know, do the other course.
Do the back 9.
There's 2 of them. There's 2 full 18-hole courses. So
of course there is.
Course, which is even much more prestigious than the one I played yesterday. And I'm going to die, so that's fine.
Are you going to go for a flight over the Palm Island?
I've got a few things to look at, but we'll see because, like I said, I have to come back every so often. So I'll knock out a few things here and there. I'm going to probably check out. There's a futuristic museum here, so it's like what it would look like or what the world potentially look like in 50 years' time.
Well, I know Dubai has a plan for that already because, like, as one of my little interests, I do try and take a little bit of political science as an interest outside of training. Dubai is knowing very well the House of Saud has already preempted the fact that they're running out of oil. So their multi-billion trillion dollar income is going to stagnate unless they do something different. So it's why they're trying to create all those like economic interests like Palm Island, the global island, fucking the Wiz Khalifa Tower, whatever it is. Wiz Khalifa. Mia Khalifa.
She's not allowed here, bro.
She can fit that one, I'm sure.
That's her brother.
And their plan is to try and build the world's like first or largest economic, entirely neutral, green generated fucking futuristic cities. So like Dubai, they're going to try and like convert it into like this big like almost like a what's the word? What do you call it? What do you call like a plantation that's around water in the desert? You call it a oasis. Yeah. Like trying to turn into that, like a big greenery situation in the middle of the desert. So that's like their big economic plan down the track is like become the first futuristic, like natural powered fucking city.
Well, that'd be pretty cool. They've got an actual museum, like I guess, dedicated to a lot of that stuff. So I'm going to go check that out for sure. And I'm going to go check out the massive ass aquarium they've got here. Like it's huge, and it's like it makes I think the Melbourne Aquarium look like shit. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna go check that out. Probably do those first and foremost, and then we'll see. I'll definitely go up the Burj Khalifa, Mia Khalifa's brother, and
nice.
We'll check that out because it's straight up and quite high. It's like 124 floors or 225 floors, and you sit there and you can eat dinner and shit. I don't know if I'll do that. I'll probably just go up, have a look, and then come back down. But
yeah, I'd be too crook.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I haven't got that problem. I'll just be more like, it's funny, like coming and you just sort of sit there by yourself. So it's like I was at Cheesecake Factory last night. I'm like walking up to the waiter and just like table for one. And they're like, cool. I'm like, yeah, cool. So is it busy tonight?
Do you want to stay and have dinner with me?
Yeah, like if I pay, will you want to sit down? But no, it's fine. But yeah, man. So it's good. It's been good. It's hot.
I mean, I always thought I could be. I could. I'm weird. I could always be a world traveler on my own. Hey, like
Oh yeah.
provided. I know you'd be the same. You're just taking the piss, but like
Yeah.
I could. I'm not one of those people who needs to have like a group of people to like the bros to go like on tour with. I
Yeah.
could compete internationally by myself if I wanted to. I could travel I'd find the nearest gym. I'd find where the grocery stores are. I'd find my residence and I'd travel. Like I could just do it. That's
Yeah,
like
100%. I think it
hang the
depends.
fuck out, chill out.
I think it depends where you go as well. Like, it seems like Dubai, you can get out by yourself quite a bit and do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There are just some, I guess, certain activities that are probably better to do with company,
With
depending
people,
on.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, like you enjoy the experience more versus doing it alone. Like seeing it is pretty cool. Like a lot of the shit, man. Like I was saying, the mall here, Dubai Mall, for those that have never been, has like 1,200 shops. It's a fucking joke. I like, for someone who's got great directional skills, the first time I got lost trying to get out to find a taxi rank. It took me half an hour.
He drives Melbourne like shit. He's lying.
Oh, please. I drive with purpose. So I drive with the need to speed.
Everyone else that lacks direction, not me.
Yeah, I can't help and control what other people do on the road. But yeah, it's just like it's insane here. But like for me, the biggest thing is just the weather. Like it is the hottest time of the year here, so it's like 35 degrees at 5 a.m.
Yeah, wow.
Which is awesome.
Is the heat like? Is it worse than Australian heat when it's hot, or is it similar?
Oh, it's probably the same. It's the humidity. So it's like it's really humid in the morning and then 35 degrees. But obviously it's like back home, like when there's no sun, it's not too bad. It's that bite from the sun that then just adds to it. And you're like, oh, fucking kill me.
Yeah, 100%.
Which was honestly what got me playing golf yesterday. I was playing so well to start with. I'm like, I'm not going to score my round. I'm just going to enjoy the course, take it in, just have fun. And then, obviously keeping mental scores because mama didn't raise no bitch. And then I got to like the last freaking couple of holes and I'm like, yeah, I'm struggling here. I don't know if I'm going to die or not, but we're going to find out. Because again, I'm going to finish the course.
Pick up, paid for it, full send.
Yeah, literally. Well, that's even the more funny thing. So I'm like, oh, like that you pay guest rates or whatever at a lot of golf courses. So I paid like the equivalent of like 200 Australian, which I think isn't too bad for, like a PGA course, right? Like I'm thinking that's pretty fucking good. Considering a lot of them you can't get on unless you're a member or someone that you want, you know what I mean? And met these two guys that are actually Aussies from where I am, like in Melbourne, like know all the same guys that I know. And I'm just having a genuine laugh with them. And said, oh, like they play like every day. Like I think after I finished my round with them, they played another round. I'm pretty sure. Like I don't know if
busy jobs.
Yeah, I don't know if they work. They work really high up. I'm like, okay. It's just like they'll play like 8 to 10 rounds a week. I'm like,
oh fuck,
that's a lot. Like I thought I was addicted. I thought I was addicted and played a lot, man. These guys are playing 8 to 10 rounds. And the thing is, they're playing 8 to 10 rounds in the heat. Like it's not just like they're
cardio.
They're playing the middle of the day, 40 degrees. I'm like, you guys are very well acclimatized to this because this is fucked. But anyway,
you can literally play anytime. I'll pick the middle of the day, the hottest point.
Yeah, like it's the cheapest point too, right? If you're playing as a guest, it's the cheapest time to go. But then they're like, oh, we'll play on Thursday, and I'll play with them and get like the guest rate from a member. It's like half the price. I'm like, fucking, this is sweet. So I'm gonna go play. Yeah, so I'm playing tomorrow morning again, and we're going to risk death. So we'll see how we go. I've got like 8 bottles of water here. I'm going to, neck them down today, and I'm going to be fucking hydrated as fuck.
Very, very nice.
Watch me still die. But anyway, how is Brisbane?
I've actually had some pretty good weather. Today is pretty average, like cloudy, overcast, and pretty soft. But it's pretty good weather recently. So I've got some sun. Been getting a bit more of a tan base going on. Trying to have some color before I put the coats on in a matter of weeks. So trying to do all that sort of jazz and get a bit more activity up. So averaging now about 10,000 steps per day. So the weather's been good for that. Trying to drive a bit more fat loss without having to pull any food down, which has been good. So I've gone relatively 3.5 weeks now with no calorie changes, which has been good. And body fat still dropping like crazy. A good friend of mine is one of the founding NBA presidents. And he came by this morning after training. Me and Tom finished up a day.
Yeah.
And he come by for to catch up from the gym. And he's jumped in, did some posing with me and just went over some things. And he's like, fuck, how far out are you? And I'm like, oh, we're 10
10, yeah.
in the 10 bit weeks, 7 days sort of shit, like
Yeah,
10
like
weeks, day sort
10,
of thing.
10 weeks, 7 days, so 11
Yeah.
weeks.
So 11 weeks. It's
Quick
like
math.
10.5 weeks or something.
Yeah.
And for show one, if we do show one, or at least peak week trial, and then we've got another 2 and then another 4 weeks until nationals. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, I thought it was like way closer. I was like, oh, I'll take that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well,
I'll take it.
it's good when the plans work.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sweet with that. That's sweet. No sweat, no stress. Because like I've actually been. I was saying to Brooklyn the other day, and I was saying to James, I was like, I'm worried when it's gonna hit, and it's like I'm just because of like my last prep attempts, everything's just like been struggle street,
Yeah.
and it's astounding. Even someone who's written books on stress,
Yeah.
literally written a book on stress, how much it plays a role in your utilization of substrates, your uptake of calories, your training intensity, your recoverability, like how much it sets everything back.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on 250 carb low days
Yeah.
and 850 carb high days, and I literally don't like. I feel it. I'm slowly starting to get little niggles, like the little agitation stuff. Like today, the printer for some reason just wasn't connecting to my shit, and I'm trying to get all the tax stuff printed out.
Yeah.
And so of course I punched the printer, but that's understandable. So like the little niggles are kicking in, but it's like that stuff's not. It's like whatever.
Like, that'd be on a full growth phase anyway. That doesn't change.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with prep. That's just me.
Nah, that's just you.
Yeah, that's just me. That's what of it. But yeah, so like besides that, it's like I don't know. It's like I've never done this phase of a prep before where things are just moving nicely. I've still got room to be aggressive if I need to, and not even technically really be aggressive. I just pull my highs down if I had to. But overall, like, yeah, shit's just in a bang on position with still literally nearly 3 months to go, where people are only just starting to get the groove now. I've been in groove for 10 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
it's always good to be
not
ready
even
early, right?
not even yeah, exactly right. Not even feeling like the strains of a diet yet. I'm not at the point of like, oh fuck, a diet break would be necessary. Like it's just sure, like a bit of diet fatigue kicked in slightly. Like I'm fluctuating foods a little bit. Like today I had fucking bao buns. Oh, like imagine being in prep, being able to just mix up having bao buns. Like fucking pay me money. People need to, like, let me help you because this is what I'm doing in the prep. You can have even better than that in normal life.
Well, I mean, it was, I guess, probably still that option of dropping that third high day way back. It's going to put you in that position, and you can still keep the calories high, which works beautifully for you. Yeah,
exactly right. Had I not have been in the push, I guess the pressure to get to under 90s, the 3 high days would have been fine. I just would have drugged up a little bit more and just like recomp the whole way through. But
100%.
Yeah, like we said, I've still got to make under 90s to really be that competitive edge at the top there. Because if I can get to that 88 mark, I think lean with my weight at the moment, it's just clocked 30. So I've still got 10 weeks to pull down to like a 28, 27 waist at, what I would argue is about probably 8 or 9 kilos heavier than last stage weight, than last prep, if I got to the same probably degree of condition. So that's like already insane. Posing now is up to 3 or 4 times a week. Actual posing, then we'll start to do like mix around routines. I actually really want to enjoy putting together a routine. So I'm trying to like really take that in and enjoy what I want to look like and how I want to show it. Obviously my structure and shape is all entirely different to the last time I competed. So how we show it off is going to be different. How much more confident on stage I am is going to be different. The fact I can vacuum now is different. So, all these little things that are just making this time more exciting. Like I know Chris talked about it when he was on, and we're talking about that down in Melbourne. How we were trying to take the whole process in more. And I've been trying to do the same thing. Like I'm not wishing it away. I'm not hoping that it goes faster. I'm just like, it gets exciting how much I keep seeing new lines and things popping and changing. And it's like, fuck, what could I do in another 3 years? What could I do in another 4 years? What can I do in another 6 weeks? Like all that cool shit just keeps changing, like keeps coming through my head. So yeah, I'm just sort of like trying to take it in and enjoy it. Training intensity still through the fucking roof. Like every session there is a progression of some degree still, which I would hope not to see drop off. Obviously there's going to be a point where you'll expect your compound lifts to probably slow down or stagnate, but hack squats just went up. So I maxed out the set last week at 180, jumped up to 200. I was like, an extra 20 kilos. We'll keep it safe, not go too crazy, just because I've made big jumps before and fucked up. So I went, we'll go safe, add 10 kilos aside. So it'll be 5 plates in total. maxed out, got 13 reps. I was like, bro, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
It's like, this is dumb as shit. Like, this should be like slowing down.
Put more weight on.
Yeah, I was expecting because we're doing like we stopped over the intensifiers like we said a few weeks ago, so we're just doing top set and a back off.
Yeah,
I was expecting like 200 to be like a 8-9 rep sort of feel.
Yeah, of course.
As I was feeding up to it, I was like 8 or 9, probably at 200. Just goes to show sometimes you can't even gauge your own intensity, because it was like hit 12, 13 reps. I was like, oh fuck, that means next week's heavier.
Yeah, yeah. It's either that or you got to go for more reps. Like, which one do you want to do?
yeah. Let's up it so I don't have to do as many reps. I'd rather do 220 and not more reps.
100%. 8 reps or bust. To fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not doing 8 reps and fucking more weight.
Yeah, if it's more than 9, that's cardio.
100%.
But yeah, so that's it's all good. Like the fact that there's no formal cardio in yet, none of that sort of stuff. So there's all this room for things like supplementation. I just started to titrate up now to the higher amount which is still nothing in comparison.
Yeah.
If I wanted to be a dickish and be a bit more aggressive, I could, but
Don't
don't
need it.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
If it's not broken, why fix it, right? And if
exactly
things are fine, just fucking let it go.
And we've talked about this before, but actually spending time focusing on your off seasons and preparing and training, get the body ready for these sort of things. Like, yeah, sure, I don't stay shredded year round in off season, but that utilization of food, training at higher capacities and volumes, training at heavier weight, building strength, building foundational priming phases, all leads to this position where, for the first time I would say ever, I've been in a position where I'm owning the prep and not being like owned by prep. And it's like,
I think also your off-season condition wasn't that bad, right? It's not like that's a big thing that a lot of people I think forget. It's like both in powerlifting as well as bodybuilding. Like a lot of people I think take too much of an advantage of the loose term of off-season, and they literally switch off, and you're like,
yeah, I'll train 3 times a week, eat pizza every day.
Yeah, it's kind of like we don't want you fat. Like, yeah, like you are going. Don't get me wrong, you're going to put on some fat, obviously, understandable.
Yeah,
but we want probably more tissue than we do fat. Like most of the time, especially if you're enhanced, and it's like, well, you fucked up by getting more fat and not putting on muscle.
You went the other way.
Yeah, so now you're going to have to go harder in your diet, and I think that's I guess a credit to yourself for keeping yourself in still decent shape. And who would have thought that actually just having a decent output, even in a growth phase, would definitely help limit body fat gain while putting on tissue. Again, the simple things as always, but they seem to work best. And that's what's probably also contributed to making this dieting phase a touch easier, because you start from a good position. So it's like, who would have thought starting in a good position would be beneficial? Like rocket science. But yeah, so
even steps and stuff like that in off season, like I was still never shy of like 8,000-10,000 on a bad day. So still ticking those markers and keeping tabs of that data and stuff like that was like, even with Dolt, it was always when I was working in W, there was like 12,000 steps a day, 15,000 if I was pushing it. Then I step back and took on work from home and stuff like that, and then became like 8 to 10,000 just to make sure I was healthy. Like all these things that you have to take ownership of. That when people see a prep and they think, oh, it's 12 weeks or 16 weeks. Reality is the prep is made long before you start cutting down. It's just some people don't want to see it that way or put that work in. Whereas to me, and I think we've talked about it before, but bodybuilding, like a prep and a show shouldn't be a detrimental or gigantic alteration to your lifestyle, right? Like it should just be a culmination of a lifestyle you're already living. You should be building those lifestyle habits and behaviors long before you go, oh, I'm going to flick the switch and prep.
Yeah, it should be. I guess it depends on, I guess, the severity of the goal, right? Like how important is that goal of being, let's say, bodybuilding, for example? Like, are you going for, it's like your goal is, your objective is to be a pro, right? So it's like, if you want to be a pro, then I think that's the extreme that, you may need to go to. But I think for a lot of people that get into it, I think the idea of a pro card might be, like really cool. And then they start to actually go through the processes and they're like, okay, maybe not to say that getting on stage still isn't a cool thing. And, it's obviously a very big achievement and whatnot, but it's obviously not a lifestyle for them. It may be like a part lifestyle or, like a partial lifestyle, like
dipping toes in it.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, they live a more healthy, maybe lifestyle, a more active lifestyle. And it gives them that flexibility to do like a basic prep and, potentially basic growth phases and stuff and still get on stage and look good. They just don't simply perform to, I guess, their optimal or their maximum potential, because obviously they're not willing to do what needs to be done. And again, that's not, a detriment. That's just life, right?
Yeah, it's just the trade-off. The trade-off they're making is that they will not be in contention. And this is the craziest part to me is all these things that I do and these things that we're doing and the things that I will message everyone about and I'll constantly be excited about and changing and adjusting and tracking and checking. That only puts me in contention. I'm only in the ballpark to win. That doesn't even guarantee me the win because there's 200 other guys doing the same shit.
Yeah.
And I'm not even in the competitive ranks yet. I haven't even been named in the top fucking 5 yet. So that doesn't even put me in the ballpark. Doesn't put me in line to win. It puts me in the ballpark to potentially compete to win.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, now I think this prep will be the one where I get on there and see where I stack up and say, okay, my proportions are great. Structures are in the right position. My shape and posing good. Now it's about adding mass or seeing where I stack up against the larger guys, like all that sort of shit that this prep now gets to line up for that. And I think, a lot of people don't want to look at it don't want to, but they may not look at it that way and simply see it as like either a loss, so I quit, I throw in the towel, or it's just a cool experience to have and try out. Fair enough. But I think to really be in that stage where you've got higher calorie preps and you've got more food availability and you're actually utilizing food effectively and like eating and like you're fasting and reducing food intake to certain windows of time to maximize fuel the next day for training, all that sort of jazz. Those little tweaks and optimizations sort of come into play the greater the goal is for you. So like, the more fixated on the win you want to be, and the more like, I'm looking big picture. I'm not looking like winning this year. I'm looking at like, what do I need to do in this prep to better myself for the next prep and better myself for the one after that? Like I've been doing this realistically at a competitive degree of intensity, 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, if this is what I've done in 3.5 years, where literally it's like
people don't realize that.
Yeah, you watch bro chat and stuff like that, and these guys like Fuad is like, there's the odd genetic freak like Nick Walker coming up.
Yeah, 100%.
But those guys have still been doing it for 10 years. Even at 27 now, Nick has been competing since he was 17.
Exactly right. And so it's like we have this term training age for a reason, because it's like your training age is really like, the age that we want to know about and we want to look at when it comes to performance-based outcomes. So whether they be strength like powerlifting, whether they be strength, strongman, whether they be bodybuilding. So your training age will dictate probably, your timeline in terms of where you're going to end up and when you'll end up there. It's just, again, those freaks do come along, every now and then. And it's funny. I think the misconception is when we say those freaks come along every now and then, when people then look to like, the best in bodybuilding, it's like, they're all freaks. Like that's why they are. Like you're looking at the culmination of freakish. Like when we talk about outside,
it is a freak show.
Yeah, when we talk about the outside the bell curve, they're all outside the bell curve. Like
I was going to say it's that funny perception, right? And I see the same conversation when we look at like NRL players, and like you'll hear commentators of people that don't really follow, or like fans that have never played, like, oh, this guy sucks, he fucking plays for the Sharks, he's crap. And it's like, if you understand, when we look at the numbers required for you to get to a professional level, just to be in the door, foot in the door, first game. The entry, we did these numbers. I think we've talked about it before. We did these numbers at high school when we had our scholarship programs. 3% of high school football players will make it to contracts to the what was Colts, then Q Cup. 1% of Q Cup make it to the NRL. 1% of that will make 100 games. 1% of that goes on to make 300 games. Figure out that math. So all in all, like to get
4 people,
exactly, to get to that like
0.8 people, it's not even one person.
Exactly right. It's like a third of a person every 10 years.
Yeah, exactly right.
We wrote an article on it, on like I wrote an article on it, a blog around NFL, because the numbers are so scrutinized and so massive, so crazy, that it was like the culmination for NFL and high school over there is getting to college level. That's like the big deal. Everyone 100%. like people throw in their careers after college. It's like, I don't want to go pro. Like I'm happy here. I peaked in college, did my 4 years, went from varsity through to what do you call it? Like the sophomore, whatever they.
Well, true. Yeah. They play like AAA and all that.
Yeah. Sort of stuff. I went into like AAA ball, got some scholarships up there. That was a big deal. Won that. And it was like that number, we worked it out. There was like something like 16 teams. I tried to do the math on this because it was like pretty fucking crazy. There's 16 teams. There's 1.1 million players in the high school leagues.
Yeah.
1.6 million players at high school age competitive level. Then it goes to like 500,000 at the college, across every college in America.
Yeah.
Then from that, it has to go to 116, what is it? It's like 16 NFL teams.
Yeah.
So you have 500,000 people competing for 16 NRL teams.
Yeah.
NFL teams, of which then there's like, back off teams and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Second stringers.
Yeah.
So it's like, even making that, to make college alone itself defies math numbers. Like, to even set it as a goal for it to actually happen is fucking mind boggling. Yeah. And it's like, the people don't realize when we say like, oh, like this person, he's shit as a professional. Like, oh, he's a shit bodybuilder. If you're picking a pro already, you can't use the word shit.
Yeah, the only time you can use it is in comparison to another pro.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah, that's the only time. He does not, or she does not look as good as that one.
Yes,
but they're both still phenomenal compared to your average Joe who goes to the gym down the road.
You put that person in any random gym in the world, the statistical improbability that he's next to another pro is like fucking 0.1.
100%. That's where I think the misconception is, and everything gets sort of misconstrued. It's just people will compare, but it's kind of like, who are you comparing against? Because like we use the NRL example, you want to criticize a halfback and be like, oh, they're shit. It's like, yeah, but who are you comparing them to? Like a halfback from the other team? Yeah, maybe he's just having an off game. Maybe he's just not as good. You might be right. But he's still better than 70%.
99%.
Yeah. Like he's better than everyone else that has tried out for his position for that team. That's why he's the number one. Like
16 current NRL teams. That means he's better, give or take their position on the ladder and his rankings in the Dally M's. That halfback or that player that you're talking about, that front rower, that lock, that captain, better than 16 or the 1 in 16 of the best in Australia at the moment for that position.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not even Australia, right? Because they do import. So it's like,
they do imports. There you go. Yeah. So
so you're not
looking at New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, PNG, England,
England. Yeah, exactly right. You're looking at a lot of countries.
Still playing 7 for that team when they have the capacity to draw you over from another country and the rest of Australia. So like, it always gets me when like, I'm fine to, like we've talked about before, I'm fine for comparison to like look at someone and go, that's where I want to go, or this is where I could be, or this is the work I have to do. But like, the person in the grandstand, the person on the couch, though they are going to have the most to say, have the least opinion, the least valid opinion versus the person, doing the thing or being amongst it. And even the ones being amongst it, then there's tiers to this shit. Like, even I recognize, like, when I'm on stage this year, there are levels to this game that I'm not even in yet. And I've been doing it, 3 or 4 years plus training before that, plus my rehab and stuff. Like, I've been training a while at things I like to do. There's tiers to this that you can't comprehend. It doesn't just go gym goer, bodybuilder. There is like the natties, then there's like the experiential type, then there's like the I actually want to win, then there's the I'm willing to take subs, I want to be experienced IFBB or NBA, or NABA or WBFF. Then there's I'm state level competitive, I'm national level, now I'm pro competitive. Like, all of these levels change how hard you actually have to work with things and what you have to give up and actually sacrifice to get, into the conversation. And it's like, all of these things, like these years and years already of what I've done, are culminating only in a good prep now. Yeah. And that doesn't even guarantee me that prep's good or it win. Like, there could be 10 things that go wrong between now and October, but it's like, and it's just, we've done the best we can to make that happen.
Yeah. And you just want to do, I guess, for yourself and those that are prepping or playing or doing, I guess, things that are a bit more individual, even though you're in a team-based sport, if your performance or I guess it's performance. We'll say a prep is performance, even though I guess a lot of people could argue that. I mean, I'd be one of those people to argue that, but that's fine. Let's just use performance loosely. As long as you can better your last performance, right? That's the whole point. As long as you're getting better and progressing in a positive fucking manner, who cares? Like, who cares? And it's funny because it's like, I used to take that approach. It's funny. I used to really try and take that approach when I used to play really high level tennis. And it's like, if I can better my performance, especially if I play the same person, right? If I can better my performance, so someone if I've lost to them, if I beat them, performance is better. Done. Even if they've had an off day, which, that's obviously the differing factor. Whereas with a prep, you don't really have, I guess, that adversity, like, somebody that's challenging you. Your challenge is you and obviously your environment versus that external type factor. But it's like, for me, what I found with golf literally is the same thing. It's like, it's me versus the course, not versus the person that I'm playing with. And it's like, if I can beat the course, which, I never will, because I'm not going to play on the PGA. But the goal is to beat the course. And if I play the same course twice, which is, getting a membership at a course, if I can better my score, then my performance is better.
Exactly.
It's like that's the whole point to what we do, right? And as coaches, that's what we try to facilitate. And then as the client athlete, like, your job is just to try and beat that and understand that that's going to be a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month thing, whatever that outcome is.
Yep. Exactly right. And that's like, it's kind of like that. We only have so many objective measures in bodybuilding to go by. The rest of it becomes subjective feel, right? And like, we have photos, you have data points. That's why we track information. Like, we want to see, I can tell you that, my prep 4 years ago, my utilization of carbs at this point was much worse. My sleep was much worse. My stress levels were much higher. My physique in size, structure, condition overall was much worse. So in every physical or tangible metric that I have to go by objectively, I'm improving from what was like the last show to this one. So that rate of progression, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to go first place this year, which is just, in a subjective pageantry based sport, it's very unrealistic to set that unless I'm, unless you're a genetic freak, like Walker comes up and, you get that guy and it's like, okay, fair enough. He's going to just walk straight through. But for me, at that competitive rate, this is something I want to do for 20 years. Like, I'm not done. I'm not bored. I get excited every time I look at a new line, a new shape, a new off season, a new plan. So it's like, I have no plans on this slowing down, where I know some people might just do 1 or 2 seasons. Like, oh, that's it's cool. At every point so far, I've been more and more enticed and excited through niggles, through injuries, through setbacks, that like I get to get better. And going by every tangible metric we have, I'm getting better. And that literally is the only win we can grasp from it, besides the gold medal. And great, if I get one, fantastic. I'll be pretty, I'd be pretty disappointed at some point if I don't. But at the same time, it's like, I did something that 99.9% of the world population can't do. And even of the population who can do it, I'm probably going to do it better than most of them, because I'm willing to do the things they aren't.
Exactly right. And that's just it, though. The severity of the goal will determine, I guess, the severity of what you need to put in and what you need to give up, or what you need to potentially sacrifice. So, but again, it's each to their own. And there's no way to judge someone for doing, if they don't want to go be a pro, but they just want to experience it, by all means. Like, you'll learn some shit, and if you want to go pro, well, then that you'll know by then if you want that. Because if you're wanting to go through that process and what you need to do.
I think it's a really good humbler as well. Like, things outside of your control, like that, like those subjective competitions, are very good humbling good at humbling egos. Just like, around your gym, you're the big dog and you're shredded, but like, shredded is relative. Like, you stay at 10%, 8% year round. That's cool. And sure, people like, me at Tom and things like that, like, we'll grow and we'll get soft, and you might, you'll sleep on us because it's like, oh, that dude in the oversized shirt, he's just soft as fuck. Like, cool. That's like fair enough. But then there's like, oh, all the friends have been blowing smoke up your ass at the gym to go compete, and you go to do it, and you only get to 5% body fat or 4%. And it's like, that those numbers aren't that great, though you're good year round outside and off stage. When it comes to the actual performance side, like, it's very good at humbling people, because it's like, oh, you're King Papa at your gym on stage against everyone who takes this seriously, you're washed out.
Yeah, and it's like, you might be the genetic freak of your gym, but that's just the gym. And that's why I always laugh when the pros are like, oh, they think that they're not genetically gifted. When a pro bodybuilder is like, oh, I'm not genetically gifted, and you're like, excuse me? Sorry, what? Have you seen my carbs?
Sure, if you know how insertions and origins of genetics work, but
you're a pro on the Olympia stage, and you think you're not gifted? Okay. We have a lot of psychological work to go through, but
you're gonna have some fun when you finish competing, because there's a lot of things to fix up. But it's very true. Like, you like, all you really have to do is look at the fact that there's only how many elite level bodybuilders, or even like very committed level bodybuilders, do you know at each gym, or have you seen at the gym?
Well, look at it from this point of view. Like, how many compared at the Olympia? 15? Something like that.
20 tops.
Yeah, like, that's in the world.
Then, no, you just have to look at those numbers in comparison and narrow that down. 7 billion people.
Break the numbers down, and like 20. Like, that's it. You
3.6 billion a male. Between, take away sub 20, sub 19 to 0, so you get rid of that. So maybe there's we'll say 2.5 billion. Say 2.5 billion left. You might get rid of the 60-year-olds because there's masters, but great, they're still masters. So you're left with little like what 1 billion people in the capable age range to compete at the Olympia. There's 20 up there.
Yeah.
20 people.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing is they have to beat other pros who are also genetically gifted. Yes. So it's like, that's why I always laugh when the Olympia pros, or the people that make the Olympia turn around and say, I'm not genetically gifted. It's like, excuse me, sir. Have you seen my
hold up?
Like, let me show you what genetically ungifted is.
I have good genetics. You have great genetics.
Yeah, exactly right.
I have a taper and a vacuum. You have elite genetics.
Yeah, like shut the fuck up. It's always funny to listen to people talk about like, being genetically gifted and stuff. And it's just like, man, a lot of the time I have this conversation a lot, actually, as of late too. People don't understand, or not don't understand, they struggle to accept that most of the time the professions they're trying to pick from an athletic standpoint is probably not suited to their genetics.
Yes.
And that's a big one that a lot of people don't realize. Like, the best example I can give, as much as I hate to use anecdote, is myself. And it's like, I am half Aboriginal, half Italian. My Aboriginal side probably dominates when it comes to athleticism. What is my actual genetic background, and like, what is it that I'm built to do? Run. I know. I can hear people laughing already, even though this hasn't dropped yet, but I can hear people laughing. So think about it. Me, strength-based coaching and powerlifting and whatnot. I used to run once upon a time, but like, that's my background. My background is, hand-eye coordination, ball sports, run, like football, soccer. Like, these are the things that I am built to do. And don't get me wrong, if things were different back in the day, could have been something. I had quite good potential to do that. I played very high level sport. But at the same time, my pursuit changed, and I wanted to be like, well, I want to go do this because it was challenging. Not that I wanted to go professional in it. I knew it was a challenge to me. And at the time, I didn't understand what the challenge was. And it's like, now I understand that challenge was much more genetic than anything. And I'm like, well, I want to get stronger and see how far I can push my strength. Am I going to get as strong as the next dude who's gifted and genetically, built to lift? Mm-hmm. No. Fuck no. No chance. However, is that person going to be able to run or have the potential to run and do what I did? No. Fuck no. Like, it is what it is, right? It's just understanding, like, fulfilling your genetic potential is a very big difference.
Yes. And this is a very, very interesting topic when people want to look at high performance. It's like one of the first things I really started diving into in the literature around it, because there isn't a lot. There's very few models or studies that have followed an elite performer, because you can't pick them, right? Like, you can't just pull something out of thin air and go, well, that person's going to be elite, let's follow them. So the financial cost of tracking 1 million kids to see who becomes elite based on their interest without actually impacting or influencing bias, ethical questions that come up, there's very little data on. So you have to go back and see these things and look at people like Carol Dweck, who is a founder in positive psychology, the era around the 1980s. She started looking at these sorts of things and like looking at things like the development of grit, which is a very highly, a more modernized version of the definition of like conscientiousness. But what they were trying to look at is, okay, so to find a child who's going to go elite, right? Elite at their sport. First of all, you have to foster interest. That's the best you can do, is curiosity and foster that into interest. So you have to take a kid, explore what they're good at. And it could be acting, singing, dancing, training, fitness, sport, ball sports, basketball sports, whatever. You have to see what they're genetically they're structured at. Like, a kid who's about, if they're pushing 5 foot at 5 years old, you're probably like, okay, that's a pretty tall kid. Let's see what he does with a football or a basketball or an AFL ball. Like, let's see what happens there. Then on top of that, do they have the coordination to handle that interest? Because the difference once interest kicks off is that interest then has to be turned into skill. Because skill then leads to motivation, because it's intrinsically rewarding to see you get better. So now you're developing a passion and an interest around the fact that you're good at something. Then we have to be mindful of the fact that if we push too hard and we start to develop, like, so we know there's a bit of literature around intrinsically driven children that are given external reward lose interest because the intrinsic motivator is taken away and is positively reinforced by the external motivators. And you start to get like financial incentives, you start to get like endorsements, you start to get player bonuses, like the stuff that wasn't there for them at the start that made it fun. And this is where the issue comes in, like NFL, gridiron in America. A lot of the schoolboys in the high school age get so much pressure to be elite athletes and like the top tier they end up collapsing and crushing under the weight of it and just throw it in the towel, go back to, you know, the suburbs of Atlanta or LA.
Yeah, well, it's
or
when it becomes like a job, right?
exactly. And so that passionate interest, you think about that, then you now have to find that kid who's passionately interested about something, gifted at it, has the desire to improve that talent, because a gift has to be nurtured into talent. It's not just simply like, okay, now I'm just good at it.
Yeah.
Then they have to sustain that against the other people who do the same thing, then excel beyond those people, and then become elite. Like
there is a caveat to all this, though. It's really interesting. Not interesting, but you're going to be like, oh yeah, unless you live in Eastern Europe or China, where they scout you from 3. And it's like, yeah, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I don't care about your motivation. I don't care about anything. You are genetically gifted to do this. You're going to throw a barbell over your head for the rest of your life and represent our country. And if you don't, we're going to kill you. Okay, look, it doesn't probably get to that extreme, but that's the other caveat, right? It's like, if you're living in a society where they will, like, you will be scouted. Like, if you are a freak, you will be placed in the sport that is best suited to your genetics.
A really good example of that is, and just even finish off that rant, is then, like, you know, think about, take each one of those steps back. If you want to compare yourself to those people, right, it doesn't make sense, because firstly, they had to genetically be born with a gift to be that good. Then they had to find the interest in that. They had to pursue that for decades. They had to master those skills beyond the average person. So if you think about 99% of the population all have, like, you go to elite NBA, elite tennis, elite basketball, NRL, whatever, 99.9% of them all have the same skill sets. There are those 1% of differences that separate them from the rest of the pack. That's what makes them great. So in that sample size, they're already better than the 99% of them. You can't compare yourself to that, because all of those layers that lead to being that good, you don't have them, or you haven't had them, or you haven't exposed to them. You might have 1 or 2 of them, but it's illogical to be upset by that level of greatness, because it just doesn't make sense. You can't look at it and be like, oh fuck, if only. No, there's no if only. It was never in the cards for you. It's barely even in the cards for them. They were lucky, and then managed to pursue that luck. Now, like you were saying before, being like, picked for chosen sports and things like that. And you'll appreciate this one. There was that documentary about Andre Agassi and his, Pete Sampras and his brother. I think we talked about it before. There was a documentary on him on Netflix. He ends up becoming like a top 4 rank in the world.
Yeah.
Wins the US Open. They camp them from the age of, like, what is it, like 12? They end up in like the development camps. And it's like, literally, even Andre Agassi was like, I got sick of playing tennis. I resented my father for it. I didn't want to do it. Like, I really only started winning for me after I was like 29. I said, fuck this guy. I'm not letting him ruin it for me anymore. So it's like, even the guys who get to that elite status, hey,
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
That's all right. I play tennis 3 times a day, dude. I play in the morning, I play at lunch at school, and then I play after school. Like, be training and practicing and playing, and then going to tournaments, and you burn out. Like, once you're part of the development squads, you just, like, as much as they want to nurture and foster talent, it's just like, especially back then, it could be different now. I don't know, obviously, because I'm not talented anymore. They would pretty much, they just run you into the ground. Just play, play and play and play and play and play until you can't play anymore.
Yeah, and like, because we had a rugby league club. We had touch season, touch in a school sport. Then we had our rugby league club.
Yeah.
Then we had inside our schoolboys comp. We also had our scholarship comps. We had like a program.
Yeah, exactly. And as you get better, you play more.
Yeah,
don't play less, we play more.
Yeah, we were undefeated for like 18 months, but we played like 5 different comps within like that 1 year. Yeah. Plus, we all played club. Plus, we all played at lunchtime. Plus, we all trained 3 days a week.
Yeah,
plus
exactly.
Club training.
Yeah.
Plus, I had a job at Hungry Jack's to earn my way, because mum and dad were like, go get a job.
And then you have to play like games, like on top of all the training. You're playing like 3 games
for
3 different shit. And then you're supposed to do well at school. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
like,
go on.
You wonder why a lot of the kids burn out and get like chronic fatigue and shit. Well, there it is right there. Like, playing.
Yeah, these are just like insights into moderate level.
Yeah, this isn't even genetically elite.
We didn't even get a fucking, like, I wasn't even in a contracted team at like pro level to even be in the conversation. I was going for it by all means, like open selections and stuff that was lined up, injuries and things. Fair enough. It happens. I'm over it. It's not a big deal. But this is like conversation to moderate level. Yeah. I didn't even rep Australia or anything.
Yeah, hard.
Like, fucking, you guys, like, just when you whoever's listening to this, when you start comparing yourself to these people, or like, oh, it'd be great to have this. You have to understand there are a lot of sacrifices and trade-offs and poisons that these guys drank. They, the devil went down to Georgia, sat at the crossroads type shit where they sold their soul for the things that they have. You have to be mindful of the fact that you wanted other things and you enjoyed them at the time, and you know had life that you did. They didn't get those. Why you see a lot of young pups like in the headlines of sport fucking up, because they didn't get to have those lifestyles you did. All their other friends, their bros, the homies are out getting fucked up, cooked, drunk, having fun, banging shit.
Yeah, they you know, developed, I guess, in a sense. They developed their personalities and themselves as a person. And I think the biggest testament to that I've seen, and that all the obviously imagine the documentaries we've watched, right? Like all the sporting documentaries. The biggest one, I think, for me, as much as it sucks and probably, you know, is going to be a bit controversial, is Tiger Woods. And it's like that kid had a golf club in his hand from 2. Like he was on national television hitting a golf ball at 3. Like, you know, him and like even the Williams sisters and stuff like that were all basically groomed to play the sports that they played. Now, you know, if they weren't, would they be where they are? Who knows, right? No one's ever going to be able to answer that question. But it's like, we see these rebellions and stuff like that. And it's like, well, it's because they never got to have, you know, they never got to develop as a person and develop certain characteristics about themselves and know things about themselves. And obviously that shit's going to manifest, and, you know, it's going to come out in a very different way. And obviously it's going to be unique to that person. And, you know, we saw Tiger Woods and the way he went about it. And it's like, well, fuck, like, you don't condone everything. You don't condone anything he did. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, well, even to a point, like when you start to realize and be like, oh, okay, maybe like, again, it's such a fine line, because I know a lot of people will obviously turn around and be like, oh, you know, blah, 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 you shouldn't do that. And it's like, yeah, okay, sure. However, why did he do it?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
What was the why behind that? And then once you start to dig into that and the mindset, you're like, fuck, like, okay, like, shit. Like there's a lot of, and obviously he's not the only one. There's so many people that shit's got, like elite athletes that's happened to. And it's just obviously, you know,
the amount of elite athletes that I've met, known, or spoken to that went to like camps and stuff, like even Olympic camps where it's just like sex orgies and stuff that, you know, I don't know if you're supposed to talk about that, but like they still have to vent these things. Like if you're a normal person experiencing that, imagine the pent up testosterone and the pent up estrogen of these people that are told to restrain it. Like it's this weird thing where like elite performers from like a young age, like 18 through to 30 something, are all expected to be these perfect saint humans, but yet the people criticizing them have all done the things that they're accusing them of doing or being wrong for doing. It's like, I know you ex-persons commenting have done cocaine, pingers, been drunk, pissed on yourself, passed out in your bathroom, cheated on your missus, cheated on your husband, hooked up with friends. Like you've done these things.
And you're not elite.
And you're not elite. So imagine the pressure of being the elite and then being like, oh, by the way, you can't do any of this stuff that everyone else is going to do. Like it's just, it's a weird, bewildering thing to me.
It's just like, it's funny in that aspect that so many people want to compare themselves, but it's like, I guess these are some of the risks and side effects of that outcome, right? Like, it's just so funny to see the other side to it. And as we get older and mature, we start to see things in a different light, right? And you start to try and understand a little bit of you try to understand mindset. We don't coach mindset, we understand mindset and you know, how things and perspective. And it's just like, fuck, man, like, like it's just fucked from a young age. And it's just like, well, you want to be comparing yourself to genetically elite. Well, that's what you're comparing yourself to. And it's like, maybe take a seat. You're like, maybe you didn't turn out that bad. Like
think about the life you have where you get to go hang out with the boys or the girls every weekend. You get to get on the piss. You get to hang out, bitch and moan. Like you've got that stressful job you're talking about, but realistically, like no one's observing you 24/7 whilst you're working. You're just allowed to work, knock off, and go home.
Yeah.
When you really look at that life, of, oh, you know, I could have gone pro at netball if I did this, or I could have gone pro at the NBA if I chose not to do this. Well, did you want to though? Think about that. Why didn't you do it? Did you actually want to go pro? Were you ready for that? Like, would you have handled the pressure and the scrutiny and the problems and like the demand to be good? You got out scot-free and went and did like, you know, you got other experiences. Would you have really wanted to go professional if you could have, knowing all of these things? And like, I would say 90% of the population would be no. Like when you look at like the sacrifices you have to make to go to that next level, I don't think you wanted to do it. Me,
exactly right.
I'm making them and like the trade-off is there. That doesn't even guarantee me that I win. That's just like, oh, you know, let's see what happens.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like there's a lot of people that have the potential and then, you know, life happens as well, right? There's a player, and I imagine not many people would have ever heard of him. So everyone's heard of Michael Jordan. Everyone's heard of LeBron James. Everyone's heard of Kobe Bryant. Everyone's heard of, everyone else in the fucking NBA. No one's heard of Earl Manigault. You want to listen and you want to know about like potentially the greatest player to have ever played that never made the NBA. Go look at Earl Manigault. Go look at his stats. He was born in 1944. Go look at what he was capable of doing at 5'9", touching the top of the backboard. At 5'9", he could jump. He played with ankle weights in his teens to give people half a chance.
Kudos.
He was that good. But look at his environment, where he was from, where he came up, who he came up with, and like influence of drugs at the time and all that sort of stuff. And he just went down the wrong path. Like, well, not the wrong path. He just went down a path that didn't lead for him to get to where he was going to be. Like, the dude was probably had the potential to be the greatest, like make Jordan look like a fucking kid. Like, that's how good he was. But it's like, man, circumstance, right? And then, you got, then we have all this comparison shit. And it's just like, fuck, man, like, you want to compare, well, you're comparing the probably the GOAT that we know of being Jordan. Shut up, Taffy. And then also having like potentially the true GOAT, but we won't know because he never made it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just fucked. It's like, and then you're sitting there like comparing yourself to, that chick in a bikini or that dude with abs. Like, fucking shut up. Stop.
Yeah.
Enjoy where you are and understand you are where you are because of where you've been.
Like and that to me is a big part of like the kind of the way I coach is like, when people are like, oh, I have to die, or my coach is making me cut, or please understand when you make these statements, right? And I have tried this conversation with my clients because you're involved in the decision-making process. You don't have to do anything as a grown adult. You don't have to do shit. If you want to sit there and stuff your face with pizza and donuts and cake and ice cream, cool, do it. However, you have to live with the dichotomy of the decisions that you make, and that is in which the decision you've chosen eradicates the potential for the other choice. So every time you make one of these little decisions, and every time you make a choice that is like, I just wanted to go get effed up on the weekend, I didn't want to stick to my diet or my calories or my program, didn't want to get my 7 hours sleep and recover. Every time you make one of these decisions, the dichotomy for what was beside it as a choice is now gone. So you have to accept with what is and the choices that you made. So, you could have got to bed and had 9 hours sleep. You chose to get 4 because you went out and the mates asked you didn't say no. Yeah. There's decisions there that you have to accept. And it's not like decisions aren't moral. I don't believe decisions are moral. I believe they are like logical, and I believe there are situations, but every single decision is made in a context or a reason. Once you do that, you just have to forego the other decisions. Exactly. Sure, there are better or worse choices or decisions. It's the same with dieting. Food is not good or bad. There are better or worse choices you can make depending on the goal and the outcome of the situation. Once you make those decisions, you can't live in the regret of the neglect.
Go with them. You chose to do that. You go with them and understand that, if you had done something else, that's what you give up. That's your sacrifice. Like,
yes, every single thing is a sacrifice decision. It's just what is the sacrifice you're willing to make?
Exactly. When I decided to eat 4 donuts in front of Ben, I knew that he may struggle. I was willing to accept that sacrifice and put him in pain.
Not. I was willing to make the sacrifice.
I was willing to make
the sacrifice for him.
That he was going to be in some sort of pain, and that's fine. I was okay with that.
To be fair, I walked him to Krispy Kreme every night. I walked with him.
Exactly right. So he was getting his steps in, so it's fine.
Have you seen the episode of the Bro Chat in Orlando? The RBP guys, they went to Orlando for the show that they sponsored. Samson buys a 6-pack of Krispy Kremes in a house full of bodybuilders. He's like, I just want to see who's going to eat them. Yeah. And then fucking Fuad sits there and eats all 6 of the cunts, and he's just like, oh, I just took one for the team.
Yeah, 100%.
Didn't want any of the boys cheating.
That would be me.
After all of our rambles, we should probably do some questions, right?
Yeah, that went on, but that's fine.
Yeah, apparently we've got a lot to say on that.
Yeah, well, who would have thought that was a triggering question? That wasn't even a question.
Yeah,
triggering. Okay,
that's good.
It's nice being alive and actually talking for a change. It's only 10 a.m. Instead of being fucking 3 p.m. fucking tired and shit.
Speak for yourself.
Shut up.
Your top 3 prerequisites for entering a diet phase.
Genetics? No, I'm joking.
Plan, genetics, drugs.
Top 3 priority. What was it? Top 3
priorities for entering a diet phase.
Oh, man. Well, for me or a client?
For you to put a client into.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to go by the question.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm just sort of, obviously it's a bit contextual because obviously we're going to be very different to our clients, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
making sure the client actually understands you're going to be fucking hungry.
Yes.
Kind of like, you can't make, especially depending on the extremity of the diet, you can't make the diet not feel hungry. Like you're going to be fucking hungry. You're in a deficit. That's the point. And understanding that feeling hungry and being in a deficit comes with a lot of shit. Like, you know, performance may waver. Life's probably going to suck a little bit. Like shit's going to happen. These things happen. Making sure that the diet or the dieting lines up with what it is that they want. Because, you know, depending on the client, whether it be more Gen Poppy type client or whether it be like you know, physique based, will determine the severity of the diet. But then also understanding, is the diet what's needed? We have a lot of people, and I'm sure you'll come across it as well, if not already, that you'll get a client that's like, I've been dieting for 2 years. And it's like, well, you're probably not needing a diet right now. You probably need to move to a maintenance block for fucking 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Really just like, sorry, understand that you have been performing suboptimal, and your suboptimal is now your new norm. And we need to break that cycle. And we can only really do that by putting you at maintenance and, you know, potentially increasing maintenance where possible. Because, you know, we know maintenance is never stagnant. It's always fluctuating. So potentially seeing where maintenance really takes you, where your upper end of maintenance is, keeping you there for a little bit, and then saying, okay, now we're going to diet down and see how we go. And so that's probably the second. Third is always cleanse. Cleanse always great. You can't not have cleanse in a diet. No, I'm joking. I mean, enhancements, like obviously would be cleanse, but we're not going to talk about that. I think, understanding where, making sure that the diet's, you know, logical for your goal, making sure that you understand you're going to be hungry. Probably thirdly is a top priority. Funnily enough, prioritizing sleep in the diet would be a big one. Making sure we have everything in place, because sleep may waver and start to get more and more shit as the diet and the extremity of the diet goes on. So making sure we have things in place or plans in place for the best sleep possible and good quality sleep like that. So I heard there was a quiz that you could do at Matter that might help with that percent.
I believe so. I think there is one. I think there's a seminar coming up on it actually.
All right. There you go.
I guess the only other one thing I would add to that would be, have you earned the diet? Have you actually, like, are you in a position where a diet is beneficial and you're simply not just looking to avoid something, or like, you know, thinking that happiness will be found in being shredded or something like that? Like, have you actually trained? Have you gotten a surplus? Do you have excessive fat mass? Like, have you built mass underneath of which you're trying to show off that it makes sense to diet? So, you know, have you actually earned the cut phase? And is it actually necessary? Just as something else to add on top, but the rest I agree with.
Yeah, that's completely fair. Like, answer that question in depth.
Is Ben going to wear pink diamond trim trunks with the Matter logo? Yes, I am.
Fucking oath he is.
Would you rather a son who does CrossFit, sumo lifts, or takes dick?
A son who does CrossFit, does sumo, or takes dick? Oh. Well, if they do CrossFit, they're probably not going to sumo. So we can't, you know, say all three are probably going to be the same person. So that's sort of where my brain is going. But no. That's tricky. That's tricky. I wouldn't be mad if I had a son who took dick. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not that guy. Like, if you're going to do it, make sure you're the best at it. I'm joking. We raised winners here.
Everything is a competition.
I'm not grooming my child. It's fine. You know, I couldn't give two shits. Probably say CrossFit.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go CrossFit. CrossFit, you know, these days is a bit better than what it was, I think. I hope.
Very cool.
Hey, you didn't answer it.
I get the same. Yeah, I get the same. CrossFit, at least like CrossFit, they're like the upper end of CrossFit again, like the elite guys that perform pretty well. They're pretty like metabolically pretty impressive. Their like capacity is pretty impressive. Their physique's pretty impressive. Like they can be good. Just don't say you're natty. Just shut up.
Yeah.
Biggest newbie question you guys get as coaches?
Newbie question.
Yeah.
Can I lose this much weight in this amount of time? It's probably a big one.
As I posted the other day, whatever your goal is before you come to a coach, add about 6 months to it, or 50%.
Yeah.
Depending on like obviously what the goal is. But the reality is like, and there's some good formulas for this, but like, let's say I'm going to do a 12-week prep. Okay. Have you prepped before? No. Add 2 weeks. Have you dieted this hard before? No. Okay. Add at least another 2 weeks. Do you want diet breaks or one consistent program? Okay. You're probably going to need diet breaks because it's new to it. Okay. Add 2 weeks. Is there events coming up? Okay. Add 2 weeks. So 12 weeks is now 20.
Yeah. I think I think a lot of the time when I get prep-based questions, they may not be aware of the full detail, but they're not sort of like shocked. So it's like, oh, like I want to do a 16-week prep. Well, it's probably going to be 24. Oh, okay, like no stress. Because obviously they're a little bit more aligned and a little bit more understanding of, there may be a bit more sacrifice, or they're okay with a bit more sacrifice. But I think it's more the Gen Pop clients and like those clients that have physique-based outcomes, but they're not obviously, to get on stage. It could be just, hey, I just want to look better, maybe do a photo shoot or something. And they're kind of like, well, I want to do this in, 10 weeks. And it's kind of like, well, we're probably not going to be able to do this in 10 weeks because of these myriad of things. So it's like, I want to lose 10 kilos in 10 weeks. It's like, I mean, you don't have 10 kilos to lose in 10 weeks. So it's like, I can't help you with that. That's probably the biggest one I get. Like, can I lose or gain this much in this amount of time? It's always, a certain number in a certain amount of time.
This is where I'll use and this is why I think my psych skills have been so handy in my external course that I've done, is I'll dive into things like motivational interviewing to try and get a person to explore why they think they want 10 kilos off anyway. What do you think is going to come from that specific number? Like, are we going to be set in stone that if you don't get the number, you're unhappy? Well, why is it going to be that's going to be what decides you're happy? And usually it comes back to like, oh, this is when I last felt good about myself and my husband wanted me, or my wife last touched me. It's like, okay, so really you're wanting to get back to a physical degree of intimacy that you will feel comfortable with the way your partner used to touch you, something like that, or interact with you and be close. That doesn't require 10 kilos. It requires confidence. It requires you guys dealing with your relationship. We can still get an appearance-based goal, but in 10 weeks and 10 kilos is probably not actually what you want.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right. What else we got? Shit. There we go. This is why you do it, not me. Would you rather be Thor or Gore? To be honest, I'd rather be Gore because that dude is badass as fuck. And from what I've heard, the movie currently has ruined him. I'm not happy about it, but I'm going to see it, but I'm not happy about it. I would be Gore. That dude literally murders every god in the Marvel universe. Literally murders them because he can. And he has a sword made out of the god of the symbiotes, which means Venom, the god of Venom, makes a sword out of his own body. He now holds that. It's called the Black Sword. Awesome.
Don't ruin it for people because they don't know that, because then they don't understand that we see
I know
the Black Sword in other things.
Yeah, but I know it's not in the movie properly because it's Marvel and they fucked it up and added a little spin to it.
I know. What are other bit? It depends, because I feel like people when they see and ask the question Gore or Thor, they're talking about the movie, right? So it's like they see Christian Bale and they see Chris Hemsworth. If it was going to be in that context, Chris Hemsworth.
Yes.
Because
like,
it's
Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. If we're going to go by the Marvel comics and we're going to go by tradition, Gore all day, every day.
So the only time I would be Thor is if you get to be old man Rune King Thor, and Thor gets fully enchanted by the dwarven magic. He also gets enchanted by all of Odin's spears and swords.
Yeah, which we won't see. Let's be real. But
yeah, that's not going to happen. But I would be that Thor.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it's based on the movie, and in that case, I'm going to go with Thor.
How do you go about a client who has many health issues? Ooh, well,
that's such a general question. Like,
which ones? How many?
Yeah, like what doctors? I always say go see a GP and get signed off by a GP if it's that bad. If they're
like GP outsource,
obviously
referral,
depends on the problem. Like if it's just if it's like, oh, I've got high cholesterol, cool, we can work around that, provided you've gone to the doctors, you're not on medications and stuff like that. It's like 1 point higher than what it should be according to your blood test. That's fine. We can work with that.
Yeah.
But obviously that's probably the first and foremost thing, is to get bloods. Even if I say go to a GP, I'll also say make sure you do get bloods. And these are the things that I personally want to see, which we've spoken about many times on this podcast about the bloods that we want as coaches to see, and then we can sort of help hopefully manage and fix.
Correct. That's pretty much that's much the way to do it. And then obviously outsource where your scope ends and get the right help, and then team together to get the problems dealt with. And then you start to build back from you start to knock off the list of like, okay, before we can go, and we talked about before, I think before you can go further, we have to knock off all these things, get into a better position, start. So what you thought was your goal in that time frame, now look at it really, like one of my clients, when we first started, he had a chronic issue with shoulder displacement, and like it was actually dislocating every time he went into like vertical presses or played soccer and contacted it. Sent him out to a physio, put in conjunction with a bunch of exercises I put in there as well, looked at progressive overload. rebuilt and re-strengthened the shoulder girdle so they actually had some strength and stability in there that it locked it in place more efficiently and didn't just pop out every time he fucking touched it. Now he has strong shoulders. So
who would have thought?
Yeah, very simple.
Yeah.
There are a few more on the. Hang on, I'll just swap over because fuck you, you're not there.
Sorry, time difference. At least I warned you.
All right, what do we got? Oh, best place to study Cert 3 and 4 in fitness anywhere in Australia. Just get done. Nah, to be fair, I liked the AIF. It was good. It was like the guys there were the
more popular one, isn't it?
It's up there, yeah. And it's like the guys there actually have degrees in exercise science and XPhys and stuff like that, which is like, okay, you're going to have a decent understanding of anatomy and mechanics.
Just Google and go that way. I don't think it matters too much anymore.
Yep. How to adjust to slow physical changes while growing after fast changes when cutting.
How to adjust to slow physical changes. Well, we know that growing is much more energy dependent than cutting, right? So you need more to do more, if that makes sense, and to grow more. And growing tissue is much harder than losing body fat from an energy standpoint, physiological standpoint. So understanding that obviously will be a big thing, and realizing that growing takes a lot more time. It's why we can cut a lot of weight quick, but we can't add much true weight now, like real weight, not fat.
Not fat mass.
Yeah, because that's easy, but we don't want to do that. It's really hard to add tissue, and that's why you see even the genetically elite, like Olympia guys, at their, where they're at, for their size, they struggle to add tissue. And think about the enhancement practices they're using, and they still struggle to put on tissue, right? So it's kind of like it is so energy laborious to add tissue than it is to cut fat, if that makes sense. So that's the biggest factor in that, I think.
Just get your head around the fact that again, this is where like having a good coaching practice is important, because you understand the cut, you also need to understand the growth. Everyone always talks about diet in the that they use diet in the context always of cutting, and when we have that conversation, it's like, okay, dieting is just dieting is just a directional choice of food intake.
Exactly.
Like what is your nutritional goal, and that's a diet, whatever that is. Now you can be growing, cutting, maintenance, whatever. You have to have that conversation around cutting diets. You also have to have that conversation around growing diets.
Yes,
because dietary phase, growing phases also require a conversation about how you're going to change in appearance, performance, sexual desires, energy availability, sluggishness, mood, sleep, apnea, depending on the degree. So you have to have that conversation, be prepared for the fact that you need food to grow. But when growing occurs, these things are responses. There's always, trade-offs.
Exactly.
Right. There's a few more. Let's get them out. If you had to guess, what stack would Liver King be on? All of it.
All of it. 100%. Surely he's running all the trend.
Yeah. If you can look at that man and believe he's natty, then I have timeshares that I want to sell you.
The fact that he constantly runs red, like the skin color, and like the vascularity around the face and the neck is a dead giveaway for like high blood pressure. And he's come out and said in the past, I don't know if he's changed his mind on it, but high cholesterol isn't a thing. And I think he said that blood pressure doesn't matter from memory. I know the cholesterol thing, I can't remember the blood pressure thing. This was a while back. He was trying to sort of say that cholesterol, good and bad cholesterols, and he tried to like break it down, and he was completely and utterly fucking wrong. Like wrong in every sense of the word. But his skin tone will tell you that. Like as soon as he starts talking and getting excited, he just goes red. You're like, bro, like there is something not right there. So
yes. Fuck, marry, kill John Jones, Anderson Silva, Rampage Jackson.
Ooh, I am going to marry Anderson Silva because he's my favorite fucking UFC fighter of all time. Have shaken his hand, shook his hand live in person, have his autograph, got it on a t-shirt, Bumblebee, whatever. John Jones, I would fuck because he would be so much fun. And Rampage Jackson, sorry, bro. Your version of Mr. T still bothers me.
Yeah. B.A. Arrakis? Nah, no good.
Nah, get out. Go.
She's a 10, but thinks Liver King is actually a king. She's an 8. She's an 8, but has James Smith's books collection and podcast in favorites. Yeah, fuck that off.
No,
she's a 2.
That's a negative 2.
That's a negative 2. She's a 10, but thinks cheese slices don't make a good snack. Oh, that's a fucking. He thinks that? That's a 12.
No, fucking get out. Go home. Go to bed.
And last one: would pro bodybuilders be better if they knew how to train properly?
This is a hard one, right? And this is funny. This is like that argument of knowledge versus just fucking work. And it's kind of like, you're going to go tell a pro bodybuilder that you're training wrong. And it's like, you better be as big or bigger than them to say that. Because, and it's funny, this is like when we talk about the educated in hypertrophy, but don't actually fucking train. Like, cool, you could have all this theoretical knowledge and even, but you don't have any practical knowledge. And it's like, where do we find and teeter that line of practicality versus theory? Like, I'm all for theory, man. Like, anyone that knows me knows I fucking nerd out so hard on research. But at the same time, I go fucking train. Like, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go to Jay Cutler and be like, bruh, you're not training very well. Like, you're not training the best way you could. That would be idiotic of me. I'd probably want to understand how he trains and why he does what he does and try and get a more in-depth knowledge of what he's doing, because what he did worked. Then you have the opposite end of the spectrum, right? You got Dorian Yates, complete opposite. It still fucking worked. So then it's kind of like, okay, there is something that these two training styles, high reps, lower weight versus, high reps, low weight versus, low reps, high weight have in common. There is something there. To say that one isn't working or doesn't work, and to tell a bodybuilder they're not training, optimally, is a very big or very slippery slope. You need to be bigger than that person, I think, because they're going to turn around, flex their bicep, and be like, "Yeah, okay, bro, see ya." And I actually wouldn't blame them, to be honest.
And like, and Peterson talks about it too, is like, always listen to someone, always talk to someone with the intention that they have something to teach you or say. So, if we apply that in most aspects of life, especially in training and bodybuilding, things like that, we can all think these guys are idiots, but in amongst what they've done or are doing, something's worked. So take with that a grain of salt all you want. There's something in amongst their programming, their training, their nutrition, sleep, like where they decide to make those sacrifices, intensity, whatever. Some of those metrics are working. So we have to look at some of them and go, okay, so if I mix this with this instead, that should make more sense. So realistically, the way I look at it is don't disrespect that they're training, like they train the way they do. Take from it what you can and build your own puzzle out of it. And that's going to be pieces from this person, pieces from that person. This makes sense for me. This programming style makes sense for me. This works here. I want to do this. And you'll start to develop your own groove of the way things work for you. And if you have a coach, they've probably already got the same thing as well. They've got their own groove, the way they've interpreted things. But it's not to say things can't be more optimal. And like you hear that dichotomous conversation between Fuad and Paul and Justin and Ian when you listen to the bro chat. They train with reps in reserve, though they call it different things, and they don't want to be. They're rather pretentious about it. Like Ian will just say, "Oh, I left a few in the tank," instead of just saying reps in reserve. It's the exact same principle. It's just got another way about describing it. You hear them talk about the training differences, and Fuad gives them so much shit because it's boring. It's like, "Oh, you guys don't train that hard. You have longer rest periods, yada yada." But if you look at the total volume that Justin or Ian accumulate, their load is heavier and they trade it with a greater degree of intensity per set, per rep. But you look at the overall reps that like Fuad and that do, and they do a lot of volume. So it's like the conversation happens all the time. Even amongst pro bodybuilders, there's different conversations. So who's to say what's right or wrong? Look at it and go, what can I take from it?
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing, learning from people that are much more experienced. Whether they did it right or wrong is I think neither here nor there. It's just understanding what they did, why they did it, how they did it, and then you can slip in a cheeky comment.
But it's like that for anything in life. Like some of the greatest generals in military history were just farmers or farmhands or workers and people that developed into smarter tacticians that did things outside of, they did things a bit differently, or they looked at things differently as opposed to what was already established. So, there's no value more that you can put on firsthand experience and learning lessons. So, these guys did something and it worked. They were particular with it, figured it out, found out how it got a result. Though it could be better, sure. They found something to go pro bodybuilder. So, with the right coach, take away people like Matt Jensen, where they're just drugging the shit out of them. It's kind of like, you're absolutely just destroying people. With better practices, they could probably be healthier, do it longer and be better. But in their training per se, there's nuggets in what they do.
100%. And it's just like anything, every experience that you can learn from, try. If you're not, trying to expand your knowledge just in general, don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be educated. You're not educated. You don't have to be formal educated. Like, just if you can learn from people, learn from experiences, learn from anything.
Seek to learn from fucking everyone.
you will.
It's why you'll never find either of us sat in a fucking tribal camp and say this is the way that works or this is the way. We're not going Mandalore with it.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to find us saying this is the thing that does the job.
Exactly. Only
except drugs.
Yeah, I love that we both.
That does the job.
Yeah, 100%. It's always drugs, and it's always more. Guys don't do drugs.
Pussies. That is it. There was like a few more like little niggly ones, but I've got consults and whatnot coming up. So
fair enough. We did rant for a while there.
Yeah, that was a good rant. That was a good one.
Beautiful thing.
We're energetic in the mornings.
It's only 25 past 10. Fucking yay.
You haven't even been up. You haven't been up fucking at 5 a.m.
Well, yeah, the jet lag's still a thing. I woke up at like 2:30, which is what, 6:30 back home or 8:30 back home.
How long are you there for?
Till Monday. So what, today's
nice.
Wednesday?
Like Monday to Monday.
Yeah, literally a week. So I'll fly back
nice.
Monday. I'll land actually Monday morning at 5:30. So I'll probably go straight to work. So that'd be fun. Home, shower, work.
Very fair.
Yeah, good days. Good days.
But is there anything else happening whilst you're over there? How's work? How's the strength zone going? Everything all sweet?
Yeah, man, gym's going well. Memberships are picking up, which is nice. Obviously, being winter is a tricky time, but things are going smoothly. We're hitting targets, which is always nice.
Nice one.
A few seminars. I think people are running seminars at the gym that we're setting up, which would be cool.
Nice one.
Over the next few months, we've got, I think, hopefully Broderick coming down, which would be cool for Evil Genius.
I think I might just fly down to that one, not worry about the Gold Coast one.
Hey, why not? Come have some fun.
Yeah.
It'll be in December, like start of December, I think.
Yeah,
so.
I'll be out of prep. It'll be chill time. I'll be jacking up anyway. So just tell them running everything.
Yeah, should have some decent weather. So
yeah,
that'd be fun. That's about it, I think.
Yeah.
Really just chilling and trying to get through until I moved to casual at my gym, which would be nice. So I'm actually currently part-time, which is about 20 odd hours a week.
Yep.
So moving to casual, so it'd be like 6 to 8, or probably hopefully about 8 hours, which will give me some time to put back and, get back on Instagram and start posting again, because it's been fucking forever. Like, people keep messaging me like, "Are you still alive?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just fucking busy." I'm busy. I'm tired.
But, we're an online business, but yes, there's other things.
Yeah, I do have some targets that I'll set for my online business, and I'll actually be bringing, I think, Brooklyn in to help with that, which would be fun. See what she can do, work some magic. Considering she's killing it for Matter, so it'd be silly not to. And as always, my famous line will be, "Invoice me." I don't care. Just invoice me. Just tell me. I'll just give you access to my bank account. Pay yourself. It's fine. I don't care.
7 multi-trillion billion jillion dollars.
Yeah, I have like 40 cents in there. So sorry.
Apparently tied up in Dubai.
Yeah, like the kicker. The kicker. There's no money in there. So
yeah, you can have what you want from it. There's not much in there.
Yeah, that's about it.
Very nice. Very
yourself,
nice.
Got anything?
We have a sleep seminar coming up at the end of the month, as it's time to start actually giving people some more conversation around it. So there'll be a free seminar around that for everyone, just on the topic of sleep. We'll lay out some slides, do some talking, cover a few different important factors that sleep play a role in that we need to be conscious of when it comes to training. So, it'd be general like sleep science, but overall like have its connection to training, performance, nutrition, metabolization, substrate, stuff like that, that just will be important for the general person to understand around training, why we push it so heavily. We're also we're building up to a hypertrophy seminar. So that one will be more like, $15-20 or something like that. And just be like a hour chat as we start pushing out things towards the course. So, there's going to be a seminar towards general hypertrophy or progressive overload. So just simple conversations, but the basics that people miss and forego that they need to understand before they go worrying about super complex fucking banded this and that. That'll be the next one come up. And we're working on some videographers. We've got a few that we're trialing out to start getting a bit more training content and things done. Give people more behind the scenes stuff of Matter and how we're doing things. Like the podcast is great. There's only just me in front of a camera though. So gonna try and get a bit more stuff there just so people actually see, what fucking training through a prep looks like. I don't want to do like a cringy, day in the life, bro, but like
motivational one, put you on.
Yeah.
What's the
Machiavelli motivation?
Yeah, Machiavelli motivation.
Yeah. There's not going to be me giving like motivational chats. It'll be like me and Tom, how we train. We talk heavy, we talk hard, but then we also chat shit. So, when it's set time, there's, some grunt
similar to
swearing.
what we did down here.
Yeah, exactly right. So
just fly David up there. Be cheaper.
Yeah. Actually, no, I won't. We'll see what the quality of work is before we worry about moving along, but they put in some pretty competitive prices. So, it's just stuff I can't do, Brooklyn can't do, none of the team can do. So it's like
just outsource it. It's always easy to outsource shit.
Outsource,
just fucking outsource.
Yep. So we're doing that. That's coming up. What else we got? We're deciding on SA or Victoria for our first show. I want to do SA just because, interstate, try something different. I've never been there. We've talked about it before. So I really want to grab that. So I'm going to take my camera, stuff like that, and just sort of chat that because, be my own coach as well. I'm going to give you guys the insight to what's happening, what load plans are, how we're going to front load versus the back load, titrating foods, looking at things like digestion to be able to pose and vacuum properly, like all this stuff. So, I want to try and give a neat little back look into that you don't really see from most people. There's nothing to hide. There's no secrets from me. It's like carb loads, sodium load. There's no sodium loading. There's no water load. It's just very simple homeostasis for most of those things. So it's like I got some super secret formula that you don't know about. It's just fucking, this is how we're doing it. This is how that we're going to judge the look. So bit of stuff like that. So we're trying to get as much done to keep you guys fully up to date and in the prep with us. It's actually been very humbling. Just before we go, I just want to say thank you to people that are listening and paying attention, because the amount of messages that have come through from like your clients, my clients, followers, listeners around prep and like asking for how it's all going and checkups and check-ins and what like photos are looking like, all sort of shit. Like last time it was just me grinding through the fact that dad passed away, mum was sick, me and my ex split up. Like it was just a head down, shut the fuck up and do it. And so it's a much better feeling this time to have people be like, hey, hope you do well, hope you're all good. It's like, I'm sweet, I'm loving life right now. But it's like, it's just cool. It's a nice feeling.
We just got to make it harder for you. You just got to make it look harder.
Yeah. Mate, follow me from like 3 years ago. You'd know the difference.
Yeah. People are like, this guy is doing it too easy. You just have to do things. Like, it's what I tell clients when they're training in the gym. It's like when they lift a really light weight, I'm like, look, you have one of two options. You get a fucking heavier weight, or you make that weight look really hard by making some weird facial expressions or something.
Just face the fuck out of it.
Yeah, convince me that is difficult because it looks way too fucking easy. Yeah. That's what we got to do. You just got to fake it.
Yep, pretty much. Now, when you look at, like, if you've been following or you have followed before, you look at like prep 2019 and just how hard that was. I did 1,200 calories for 6 straight weeks. Like that was fucking brutal. That was after titrating down from only like 2,200. So there was no high days or fun days. It was okay. My body's not responding.
Brutal.
Less food. That in and of itself gives you a perspective to how this one gets to be and gets to go. Like I've suffered before. This isn't suffering. Like they're all suffering, yada yada. But like I've suffered for 4 straight years.
Comparison, 100%.
We've worked to this position for a reason. So yeah, it's definitely it's gonna get worse. I know that. I'm not expecting it to be a smooth sail, but like for right now, it's like I appreciate it. It's great. But it's all going to plan. Everything's moving along, and I'm pretty happy.
Beautiful.
All we can ask for, right?
That's it. Well, as always, thank you to the listeners for tuning in. We will catch you again next week with some fun content.
Time for the next 50 episodes.
So if you have anything you want us to talk about, anything you want to ask, always message Ben.
Dubai.
Always message Ben.
Message the House of Sard and ask him to talk to the prince.
Yeah, right. Throw it up in the question box that we put up on a Wednesday morning, or simply just DM one of us, and hopefully we remember to put it on. We didn't even have a plan this today. We just sort of started ranting and just went on.
Yeah, and it came out well. It was great.
Triggering genetics. Who would have thought? Anyway.
If you do want to listen to a bit more education, less shit talk, you can jump onto the Matter podcast. I'm not snagging followers, although I am, but
go for it.
A little bit more.
It's not like I promoted my elite strength one.
That's fair.
Which
there is going to be a lot more serious. Yeah, about time to pick it back up. There will be a lot more serious chat around there, stuff about a bit more behind the scenes of me, how I came to be, and the evidence and things that we've used, research, experiences, anecdote, prep updates, business updates. So we're trying to give you a full understanding of like the system, how it's working, how a business grows, how we're growing, what we're doing. Fuck it, you might learn some things for your business, you might learn some things for your education, you might get an interest in nutrition, psychology, whatever. I don't know, but it's all there. So jump on there. I'm terrible at using fucking Canva Pro though. Not Canva, fucking Adobe Pro. I'm trying to use that shit. Fuck that right off.
So like me trying to do my reels, mate. Get rid of it. It's done. Yep. Outsource.
Just someone can I just get like 10 new clients just so I can pay someone else to do that work? Come on, guys.
And anyone listening who's willing to do that for Ben, hit him up.
I'm dying. Please give me
struggling social media.
Please, Sam, I have some more.
All right, guys, we're out.
All right, see you guys.
Yeah.